Hi, I'm Paul McGUIRE, and I want to talk to you about the day they took their masks off. And what I mean by that is there have been a lot of things going on in our society that many of us who do research and pay attention to different things, many of us suspected and knew a great deal about the existence of what some call a shadow government, a deep state, a globalist elite. I've been writing on those subjects for decades. And we knew that this structure existed and we had evidence of it. But like most Americans, we were really blown away when, because of a series of circumstances, primarily the election cycle that involved Donald Trump when he was running for the presidency, and then what happened after Donald Trump became the president of the United States. All of a sudden, beginning when he was running for election, the masks came off. The masks came off. Massive numbers of people, especially in the media, people you saw every day, and in some cases you trusted. Heads of institutions, people in power, celebrities, cultural spokespeople, authors, rock and roll musicians, hip hop, country, music, scientists, just all economists, all over the place. And all of a sudden, they weren't the same, at least they manufactured a kind of fake compassion, fake virtues, fake fairness, fake logic. They projected that image. But man, when Donald Trump started to run for election, the masks came off. And then it got even more berserk, because when he was elected up to the present moment, the masks are still off. And you no longer saw these nice, compassionate people. At least that's what they projected. Of course, many of us knew it was a fake facade to begin with. But even so, man, when they took their masks off and you saw behind the masks these angry, borderline psychotic rage, unfairness, prejudice, hatred, this overwhelming psychotic hatred, venom, irrational. It was a contradiction to everything that they faked when they had their fake face, And man, it just shocked you. It shocked you. And it shocked those of you in Europe and all across the world. All these people took off their masks. It was like being invited to either the weirdest Halloween party in the world, or it was like being invited, God forbid, to that Illuminati secret occult ritual party that director Stanley Kubrick filmed in a Rothschild castle, by the way. And the name of Kubrick's movie, starring Tom Cruise and Nicole Kidman, was Eyes Wide Shut. And I'm not recommending that you see that movie. I want to give a strong warning that the movie is truthful, but Kubrick holds nothing back. He's exposing what the elite are into at the highest levels. And there's nudity and there's graphic scenes. And so I don't want to just tell people you need to see it. But what Kubrick did in that film is It was an Illuminati ritualistic party. And everybody had to be invited. They were members of the elite, and it was held at a secret location. In this particular scene, it's being filmed in a Rothschild castle. But all the people are wearing masks to hide their true identities, because they're the rich and most powerful, most famous people in society. So they're wearing these Illuminati masks as they conduct these satanic rituals. Now, in the scene, they don't take off the masks, but they do take off the masks when they go into real society, because they're projecting a face of being rational and compassionate and kind and decent and having integrity. So when this happened, when Trump began to run, you saw this mind-blowing phenomenon. All of a sudden, the entire, with very few exceptions, the vast majority of the mainstream media becomes like the Nazi Gestapo, the SS troops. Their eyes blaring with hatred, totally biased, unfair. They're going berserk with hatred on cable news networks. They're lying about all kinds of things. I mean, lying constantly. Lying about video footage, making up stories, lying about the polls, lying about how close the election was, and assaulting and attacking Donald Trump like no other politician has ever been attacked in American history, 24/7. It still hasn't let up. And you say to yourself, you take a step back and you say, wow, why this intense, unprecedented madness and hatred? Why this all-out, psychotic, unified attempt by just about all of the mainstream media to destroy Donald Trump? What is this about? Because it's irrational. And then it continues. And you have people holding up a well-known female comedian holds up a mask of Donald Trump, beheaded with blood pouring from his neck and face. She holds it up on national television, and Trump's young son sees it, and his wife sees it. It was horrific. Trump is assassinated in a play done in Central Park that was nationally televised, and you see President Trump's body falling as the bullet hits him and blood comes out. Grotesque scene after grotesque scene after grotesque scene. Totally the opposite of what these people pretend to be. So what was it about Donald Trump that they hate so much? And then, if you really know what's happening, and anyone can know what's happening if you just don't allow yourself to be brainwashed by the media, and you do your own self-education, your own research, and your own homework. And that means you go around the rigged system on the internet and computers and in the mainstream media. And then you begin to read statements made by members of the globalist elite. Numerous high-level members of the globalist elite, super billionaires, making statements like, Donald Trump is the single most greatest threat to our plans for globalism, and we have to stop him. So the globalist elite, these are the people that are behind the trade treaties, because you see, the trade treaties are designed to rip off the American people and the people in the European Union and other nations. But they lie to them through the media. They say, we signed the trade treaties, it'll improve the U.S. economy, it'll improve the economy of all the European nations. Well, let's just stop right there. Did the globalist trade treaties improve the economy and employment in the European Union? No, it went down. The working class and middle class in the European Union got poorer. That's what the trade treaties did. Guess who got richer? Mysteriously. The 1%, the globalist elite, they got richer. And then in America, all the Republican presidents, all the Democrat presidents who were secretly part of this globalist elite, they promise America that NAFTA and GATT and the trade treaties are going to cause our economy to boom. Manufacturing is going to return. We'll have high-paying jobs because we're now taking place in the global marketplace. And so what happens? I was writing about this 30 years ago in my prophecy books. What happened to Americans because of the trade treaty? Not the lie that the media told you. Oh, they sold it real good. They do the work of their masters. Just 3 globalist corporations control the entire mainstream media. They own the mainstream media. So the mainstream media did their job as loyal servants to their masters, and they sold the American public on the benefits of the trade treaties. So what happened? What did these trade treaties do? We saw an exodus, a fleeing of American manufacturing companies just leaving the United States to the tune of 80,000 manufacturing plants and companies left the United States for third world nations. Jobs, high-paying jobs, fled the United States. So what did the trade treaties do, the ones promised to Americans? What they really did is they took money out of the middle class and the working class, and they kept lowering and lowering and lowering the standard of living. So the standard of living of the American middle class and the working class went down, 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 and they became poorer and poorer and poorer. Who benefited from the trade treaties? Who benefited? Globalist elite. The globalist elite benefited. And boy, did they benefit. In my books, I have the percentages and the numbers, and you won't read this in the media because everything's smoke and mirrors. But let's just take let's just take what happened immediately before President Donald Trump was elected. Let's just take that time period for the time period before President Donald Trump became president of the United States. Because of these globalist trade treaties here in America and those that pulled in the European Union nations, what happened on a global scale was all the wealth of the working class and the middle class in America and the European Union and other nations, it went out of the pockets of the working class and middle class, and it went directly into the pockets of the globalist elite. On purpose, by the way, because the globalist elite are greedy. But they also wanted to lower the standard of living of the middle class and the working class in the European Union and the US, because that would help make their global government. So this is what happened because at the very beginning of this, because of the trade treaties, we're just talking about going back about 10 years. Because of the globalist trade treaties, the globalist elite, they represented about 3% of the world's population. 3% of the world's population. But because of the trade treaties, the globalist elite, even though they only at that time represented 3% of the population, they increased their wealth so much because of the trade treaties that they owned 97% of the world's wealth. So the trade treaties caused the super rich to get even richer. And it reached such a pinnacle that now, not now, it's gone even higher since then, but starting around 10 years ago, the richest people in the world, the elite, represent 3% of the world's population, but they own 97% of the world's wealth. That's what the trade treaties did. Now, the media, of course, which is a globalist instrument, doesn't tell you that. But it doesn't stop there. That's why all the manufacturing jobs left. That's why all the higher paying jobs left, not only in the United States, but the European Union. Those in the European Union, your best jobs, your income, your money went out the window. And the super rich among you got even richer. But because they continued to pass more treaties, and up until the time that Trump actually became president, both Republicans and Democrats were all behind even heavier trade treaties that, of course, we in America and you in Europe were not allowed to read. They were secret trade treaties. Why were they secret? Because the people who constructed them knew they were dirty, and that the middle class and the lower class in the European Union and America would be furious. So it was secret. We weren't allowed to see it. So they kept passing these trade treaties. And up until Donald Trump became president, I want you to listen to the numbers that were changed because of these trade treaties. Now, the globalist elite are somewhere around 1% of the population, okay? 1% of the population globally. But because of the continuation of the trade treaties, the globalist elite that now represent 1% now own 99% of all of the world's wealth. So 1%, the globalist elite, own 99% of the world's wealth. And that comes from the middle class and the lower class and the working class. So the trade treaties benefited the super rich. They got so filthy rich that even though they represent 1% of the world's population, they own 99% of the world's wealth. And guess where they stole the money from? The middle class and working class. But because the globalist elite control the media, control the politicians, they do a smoke and mirrors show, and the average person doesn't know how rich they are. And they don't get it, you see, they don't get it because the globalist elite, through the mainstream media, which they own and control, are always talking about socialism, redistributing the wealth, social justice, climate change, the environment. They're always talking about making everything equal and income redistribution. The media and the politicians the globalist elite control are always talking about liberal policies, socialism, wealth redistribution, higher taxes, etc., etc. Now, why is that? Why is that? Look, this is a question that anybody should be able to answer. If the globalist elite were truly the compassionate, humanistic, virtuous, caring, loving people they pretend to be when they have the masks on, and what they communicate through things like the United Nations, their puppet organization, and what they communicate through the mainstream media that they own, you would think that the globalist elite, because every time these super billionaires who own the high-tech companies and other companies, every time they talk, they sound like socialists. and they want to share the wealth with everybody. But the reality is that they're not socialists at all. Not true socialists. And they have no intention of redistributing the wealth. They want it all, baby. They want it all. And so all socialism and Marxism and communism it's a very sophisticated con game. You'll never learn this in a university or college in America or Europe. And this is how it works. The super rich, the globalist elite, through the Illuminati, it's a fact, yes, the Illuminati created the Communist Manifesto. They created the rules of socialism and communism. It was the super capitalist rich. They created the Illuminati document, and Karl Marx's Communist Manifesto is just a mirror copy of the Illuminati document. Now, the Illuminati, the super rich, the super capitalists, the greediest people in the world, they're the ones that create the communist revolution principles. They create socialism. But the people, nobody knows that, even though you can read it in plain sight. I have it in my books. I have it in my book, Conquering the Matrix. I have the details of this in my book, The Day the Dollar Died. I have this information in my book, A Prophecy of the Future of America. I explain the entire history of these things and mass awakening. It's a con game. Socialism and communism is nothing more than a mechanism, a Trojan horse, which allows the super wealthy globalist elite to seize all the wealth, all the property, all the land, all the possessions, and all the control of any nation where they, the globalist elite, the super capitalists, finance what is called a people's communist revolution or a socialist movement. Why is it? I mean, read my book, The Day the Dollar Died. I name the names of the individuals and the banks they own, and Wall Street financed Adolf Hitler and his National Socialist Revolution. Wall Street and the banks financed the Communist Revolution. Yeah, they financed the Communist Revolution. So why would super capitalists finance a National Socialist Revolution? And why was it that the super capitalists were the ones that financed the Communist Revolution in Russia and China and other places? Why? Because they care? Look, if they cared, they wouldn't have stolen all the world's wealth, and just about 10 years ago, they had stolen up to 97% of all the world's wealth, and they at that time represented 3% of the people. So 3% of the super rich, the super capitalists, took all of 97% of the world's wealth. Just look at their balance sheet. Look at the dollar income they have. That tells you where their heart is. If they were true communists and socialists, why did they become richer and richer and richer and everybody else becomes poorer and poorer? Because that's the hidden agenda behind communism and socialism. And then the most recent dollar figures, before Trump was elected president, was the super rich, the super capitalists of the world, the super international banking families. They now represent 1% of the global population. And these super capitalists that are 1% of the world's population now control 99% of the world's wealth. So, you can have all the marijuana hallucinatory dreams you want about a workers' paradise in the United Nations and Angelina Jolie and Brad Pitt and Bono from U2 and We Are the World. You can sing those songs and talk about social justice and smoke your bong pipe till your brains fry. Why do you think they're legalizing marijuana? Why do you think there's a very famous radical activist super billionaire, the same guy who's financing a social revolution to turn America, he says, to do a regime change and impeach the president and create a socialist society. Now, why would a super capitalist, super billionaire who finances that, why was he also financing the legalization of marijuana? What do you think this is? Do you think this super billionaire has a compassionate heart? I mean, people are, some of you, not you, not regular listeners of my program, but some of you are friends. I don't mean to be mean, man, but they're so dumbed down, it's pathetic. They're like crash dummies. In, you know, those little films they show on TV, what happens if you don't wear your safety belt and there's two crash dummies sitting in the front seat and they hit a brick wall and the crash dummies are rocking back and forth. Your friends and people you know have the brains of a crash dummy. Why is it that a super billionaire that's financing a revolution and is getting richer and richer every day, along with his pals, do you think he has a caring heart? Is that why he spent millions and millions and millions legalizing marijuana? Do you think it's because he wants to make sure you have a good time? Are you that stupid, for crying out loud? Are you that dumbed down? Use your head, man. The purpose of the mass distribution of marijuana is not an act of kindness. Hate to break it to you. The distribution of marijuana and the legalization of marijuana, financed by a super billionaire, has one primary agenda: that people who are experts in neuroscience, they know that it is a fact that marijuana smoking and usage makes people compliant, complacent, dumbs them down, puts them in a mild hypnotic state, and the people that are high on marijuana can easily be fooled. They'll go along with a revolution if there's guitars and promises of sex, drugs, and rock and roll, and it makes people passive. Dictators and totalitarian regimes can only work if the people are like stoned or zoned out and stuff. Do you understand? If you don't understand it, read my book, Conquering the Matrix, for crying out loud. Read it and find out how scientific mind control works and hypnotic states and neuroscience. And when you know what you're talking about, you'll have a complete reframing of your mind regarding the real reason for the legalization of marijuana. This guy, by the way, this billionaire, says he wants to have a coup. A coup? Well, we had a duly elected president. Why are we having a coup? Don't we have a Constitution and Bill of Rights? The people lawfully elected President Trump. All the people that took their masks off, that are pawns and hired guns of the globalist elite, they're trying to impeach Trump or demonize him so we can't get anything done. That's tyranny. That's totalitarianism. That's using your power, foreign power, by the way, and foreign banks. Where's the FBI investigation on the foreign banks and the foreign powers controlling the media and trying to impeach the president? That's a factual collusion. No, the Russian collusion, the Mueller, they're looking for the Easter Bunny. They're looking for the Easter Bunny. They're too busy looking for the Easter Bunny. But there's a hidden agenda behind that. So, you need to wake up, man. There's a reason why these things are happening. In our book, Trumpocalypse, that I wrote with my co-author, Troy Anderson, Trumpocalypse, the end times president, a battle against the globalist elite and the countdown to Armageddon, explains this entire dynamic and what will happen to America if people don't wake up quickly. And in my book, A Prophecy of the Future of America, I talk about the role of the Illuminati, the globalist elite, how they interface with the entertainment industry, the music videos, and a lot of other heavy stuff, and what I believe the Bible has to say about America and prophecy. And then finally, the Babylon Code. The Babylon Code, solving the Bible's greatest end times ministry. And I wrote the Babylon Code along with my co-author Troy Anderson. And we go back to ancient Babylon, where at the time of the Tower of Babel, where the origination of the ancient secret societies began. And it was at Babylon that the world's first global society was built. The first one world government, one world religion, and one world economic system took place in ancient Babylon at the Tower of Babel. And its secret shadow government control system is known as Mystery Babylon. It continues today in secret societies, which we talk about in detail in both Trumpocalypse and the Babylon Code. And their agenda is the very agenda the Bible prophecy warns about in the book of Revelation. God judges ancient Babylon, the first global government, divides them into independent sovereign nations and nation states. Why? Because God is against a global society, because when he checked out Babylon, and then he judged it, Babylon, the people were Luciferian. It was a setup for them to worship Lucifer. That's what Mystery Babylon is, the worship of Lucifer. So God came down to ancient Babylon and judged it. How did he judge it? He judged it by separating this global system into independent nation states, independent nations, and confused their language. So every nation had a different language. And he did that because independent nation states function as a mechanism to hold other nations accountable. So when you have different powerful nations, they hold each other accountable. It prevents a global dictatorship. In the same way, God, moving through our founding fathers, who got their information from the Bible, set up our American form of government with the same biblical principle of checks and balances against power. So the American government has separate branches: the judicial branch, the presidential branch, then we have the Congress, and theoretically, they hold each other accountable. That's a biblical principle. So for those of you that are all enamored with John Lennon's words, imagine there's no heaven, imagine there's no nations, imagine there's no money, that nonsensical song. And those of you that, are deep into the bong pipe, so to speak, global government is an invitation for a dictator. And that dictator, the Bible says, his name will be the Antichrist. And you will be invited to enjoy this wonderful world where you will have all your needs taken care of, like any good socialist state. But in order to have all your needs taken care of by the Antichrist and the false prophet, as it is revealed in the book of Revelation, you will have to accept a mark of the beast, 666, which is a chip implant or a nanochip implant, or maybe a biotechnological DNA chip type thing. You will have to accept this mark of the beast, which will be either on your forehead or your right hand. And in order to get the mark of the beast and buy and sell and have all your needs taken care of, you're going to have to renounce Jesus Christ as your Lord and Savior, and then you're going to have to pledge to worship the Antichrist as God. I'll let you decide if that's a good deal to make. As for me and my household, by the grace of God, we'll serve the Lord. I'm Paul McGuire. Visit paulmcguire.us. That's paulmcguire.us. We have radio programs, a television channel of free prophecy teaching, all kinds of articles, all kinds of stuff for you to enjoy free at paulmcguire.us. God bless you.